There are three levels of consciousness I wish someone had explained to me when I was a young empath. Growing up was overwhelming because I felt everything so intensely, but didn't know how to handle it. Now, after spiritual awakening, I understand how empaths operate at different levels. 5D empaths are like lighthouse, guiding others with love without taking on their pain and without getting wet. But most of us are stuck in the 4D. In this video, I'm going to break down the three different dimensions so you can figure out where you are right now. Alright, so let's start at the beginning. This is the 3D level of consciousness, which I call the unaware empath. When I was in my early 20s, this was my reality. The core state of the 3D empath is victim consciousness. This is because at this level, we have no sense of self. We are defined by our childhood trauma, the abuse, the emotional neglect, and we carry a deep unconscious shame. Because we feel empty inside, our entire sense of self and identity and self-esteem comes from one place, being needed by others. Because there's no sense of self inside, all our focus goes outside. This is why the 3D empath is constantly focused on other people. We are always worrying about others, thinking about how to help them, and absorbing all their energy. We are completely overwhelmed by the world, but we have no idea why we're so drained all the time. Our empathy feels like a curse, and we don't realize it is a helpful tool. This external focus creates one of two behaviors. We become the savior or the pleaser. As the savior, we see the world as suffering. We feel it's our job to save everyone, and we will feel guilty for not helping others. But do you know what's the problem with this? It's like playing Othello or Reversi. When we try to flip the pieces from black to white, others just flip them back. There will always be a natural balance between light and dark energy. There will always be contrast. Try to completely free the world from suffering. It's not only a frustrating thing to do, it's a fight that will never win, because they are fighting against the fundamental law of balance and contrast in the universe. As for the pleaser, we are just trying to create a safe environment. We are actually trying to please others to gain a favorable image or avoid conflict so that we can feel love and safety. During your childhood, you may have learned that saying yes or being nice can help you navigate certain threats or social settings. So it became a habit and a strategy you use to deal with your external environment. For example, early in my childhood, I got bullied in school for saying no. So to keep myself safe from this scary environment called school, right, I learned to say yes to everything, even when I meant no. But here's the thing, the 3D, third dimension, is all about the physical world. In both cases, we are trying to change and manipulate the external environment, including people, just to shift our own internal emotion. We help others to ease our guilty feeling. We please others to keep ourselves safe. We need to do something for others in order to feel worthy of love. When our emotions are completely attached or determined by the external world, we operate with zero boundaries. The 3D empaths are deeply codependent. We don't just absorb other people's emotion, we merge with them. We have difficulty distinguish our own emotions and desires from those of others. We cross other people's boundary by helping them when it's not our place or our business to do so. And we also let others cross ours. This lack of boundaries is why the 3D empaths are meant for 2D narcissists. As you move on to the higher level of consciousness, you'll find that you actually repel narcissists instead of attracting them. Because at higher dimension, your energy changes. We tend to attract people from the same or neighboring dimension. When you are at 4D and above, you develop such clear, firm boundaries that the 2D narcissist cannot penetrate or exploit. Narcissist feeds on emotional response, and higher consciousness means you don't engage and react to their drama. And that's why they won't be interested in you. When we are in the 3D consciousness, we're so focused on the perpetrator. We blame them for our misery, or we try to get them to change. We think if they will treat me nicer, I will feel better. But what we don't realize is we are the ones who need to build a stronger internal sense of self. And that's why we are constantly drained and we are stuck, waiting for other people to change so we can finally be happy. But as we all know, that day never comes. After the chaos of the 3D victim stage, you eventually become aware of the inner work you need to do as an empath. This moves you into the fourth dimension, which is all about healing our thoughts and our emotions. You might even have a spiritual awakening like me. I stepped into the 4D space in my late 20s, just before I had my spiritual awakening, and it lasted all the way to my mid or late 30s. This is what I call the aware empath, the messy middle between the two. It's the bridge to the 5D, and it's where most empaths get stuck. In the 3 dimension, your focus is external. In the fourth dimension, the good news is your focus starts to shift inwards. You're no longer a total victim. You're aware of your empathic abilities. You start doing inner work. You're healing your childhood traumas. You're understanding your codependency. You're learning to care for your inner child. You start to love yourself and treat yourself with compassion. And you finally build a real sense of self. You start to have a better understanding of your emotions and boundaries with other people. But after being so overwhelmed in the 3D, your first instinct isn't just to build boundaries, it's to build a fortress. A fortress so airtight that nobody can penetrate. You become closed off, disconnected, even isolated because you're so afraid of other people draining your energy. You learn to say no, but your boundaries are rigid. You may even feel irritated, resentful, or even guilty when someone comes to you with their problems and you have to reject them because you're still bothered with what other people think of you when you say no. This fortress creates two great traps for the 4D empath, which keep you stuck in a state of separation. The first trap is the energy vampire obsession. You start seeing the world as us versus them. You're obsessed with spotting energy vampire, people who suck your energy. It's like having someone who's always borrowing your phone charger and never returning it. You're so focused on protecting your charger that you see everyone as a potential thief. This is also why you might be fascinated with crime documentaries or dark topics. You're not trying to save the world anymore. You're trying to study it to keep yourself safe from harm. But we might not realize that this constant, continuous focus on energy vampire will continue to drain us because our focus is still pretty much on the other people and our energy will flow towards them when we think of them. Then the second trap is the spiritual ego. This is the first one, this is the second one. You may start to build an identity around being an empath. You might find yourself saying things like, I am an empath and they are not. That's why I attract energy vampires and they don't. Or I can't go to the crowded places. I'm too sensitive. I'm an empath. It's okay to validate your experiences. But when being an empath becomes a label you use to separate yourself from others, or justifying staying in your fortress, then you're stuck. Your belief and expectation of what empath can or cannot do is going to limit your experience and determine your reality. So the 4D empath is a huge step up. You have self-awareness and boundaries, but you're still very easily influenced by other people's energy. And you're kind of stuck operating from a place of fear because you're terrified of being pulled back into the 3D by other people. You're living in the fortress, but you're not exactly free. You only feel safe and grounded when you're alone in your own space, away from other people. but you don't feel safe with other people. The way out of the fortress isn't to build higher walls or stronger protection or boundaries. It's to learn how to become the lighthouse. After you're done with the inner work and learn to disidentify from the spiritual ego, you're no longer operating from a place of fear. You're ascend from the 4D fortress to the fifth dimension. This is the lighthouse empath. The core shift is that you stop reacting to the world and instead focusing on being your true, authentic spiritual self. And a funny thing happens when you just be the 5D you, the spiritual you, the people in the 3D who are attracted to drama and acting from their egos are naturally repelled by your energy. You're just no longer attractive to them. You don't need to build walls and shoo them away like flies. Your high vibration frequency does the work for you. When you are in the 5D, your rigid boundaries are being replaced by flexible, energetic boundaries. You're no longer closed off. You're open and you feel interconnected with others, but you're not merging with them. You can still feel what they're feeling, but you're not absorbing their emotion like your own. You also protect yourself through discernment. You rely on your intuition in each moment, knowing exactly when to step in and when to step out. If someone is coming at you with intense energy, you step back a bit. 5D consciousness is all about energy, which is different from thoughts and emotions. And you play with the energy dynamics between you and others. You can say no firmly and kindly, and you're perfectly okay with allowing the other person to deal with their own rejection. You allow others to form negative opinions of you. If they think you are cold or unhelpful for setting a boundary, it's fine because you know that they have the freedom to do so. You don't need to control their perception or their narrative anymore. Because once in the 5D, your well-being and worth is no longer tied to the external world. You don't have to fulfill other people's expectation of you anymore. Instead, you prioritize your own energy and intuition and focus on what your soul truly desires. Your relationship with difficult people also transform. You no longer see narcissists or vampires as enemies because you have the discernment to tell the difference between someone's ego and their spirit. You know that most of the time when people come to you with this energy vampire traits or narcissist trait, they're actually acting from their own ego. They're not acting from the spirit. You also hear your 3D savior complex. You allow people to have their own experiences, knowing that sometimes they need to hit rock bottom to learn from themselves. You don't have to rush in to fix them or fix their situation. You're also not interested in their dramas because it's all ego stuff. My mom, for example, used to tell me all her friends' problems. Her friends would tell her their problems, and she would then tell me. But because I just don't react or show interest, she doesn't bring those stories to me anymore. When you are in the 5D, you learn to connect with other people's soul or spirit, not their problems. And that's why they don't bring their problems to you. This changes your relationship with darkness. 5D empath are not in denial of dark energy. We know that there's always light and darkness. There is always this balance. They just know that fighting darkness only keep you trapped in darkness, keep you too focused on the darkness. The 4D empath tries to fight the dark. The 5D empath just switches on the light. You focus on bringing light to the world, knowing that the light itself is what dissolves the shadows. Finally, the practice itself changes. The 4D empath is often obsessed with the upper chakra, like opening the third eye, or they may be too focused on healing themselves. There is actually no end to healing yourself. No amount of healing will shift you from 4D consciousness to 5D consciousness. Because from 4D to 5D is just a change of perspective. This is not a linear process. Too much focusing on your healing and your problems will keep you stuck in the 4D. The 5D lighthouse knows that to be a tall, stable beacon, you need to be deeply grounded. So the 5D has a more balanced approach, balancing the spiritual and physical. For a tree to grow tall, you also need strong roots. So you will prioritize grounding and your lower chakra, not just the upper chakra. When you have a deep grounding, it will allow you to hold more light. And even if a storm comes, your roots will help you to have a very stable foundation. And when you have this grounding, you're no longer stuck. You're not trapped in your home or your fortress anymore. Because you can establish this grounding to wherever you go. Nowadays, I can go to crowded places if I need to. I just have to prepare my energy and stay centered as I interact with other people in the world. So there you have it, the 3 level of empath consciousness, from the 3D unaware empath to the 4D aware empath in the fortress, and finally to the 5D lighthouse empath. But here's the most important takeaway of this entire video. This is not a permanent one-way ladder. Your consciousness is fluid. You will naturally shift between neighboring dimensions. Even after all this work, I still fall back into the 4D from time to time. New things may arise and be brought to the surface for me to hear. I will also get triggered and feel frustrated when people bring their problems to me to solve. But the difference is, I don't get stuck here for months. Because now that we have this clear map, we have the awareness to quickly recognize what's happening. I can see, I'm falling back into the 4D. This is a 4D way of thinking. And I can consciously choose to shift my perspective back to the 5D lighthouse. That is the real power of framework. It's not about being a perfect 5D empath. It's about having the clarity to know where you are so you can always find your way back home. If you'd like to hear the full personal story of how spiritual awakening has changed my entire empath life, I've made a whole video on that. You can watch it right now by clicking the link here. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye! Energy vampires.